Your company currently runs its accounts on QuickBooks, but you're ready to move to Uhasibu. You have gone through the initial stage where you have signed up for a new Uhasibu account and you are ready to get started. Only problem is that all your historical financial data exists on QuickBooks and you don't want to transfer all that data to Uhasibu. This help video is going to show you how to move only your balances from QuickBooks to Uhasibu. Transferring your balances is important as this will enable you to start using Uhasibu without a glitch while also maintaining your old data on QuickBooks. Ideally, this process enables you to proceed from where you had reached on your QuickBooks accounts instead of completely starting afresh on Uhasibu. The first step in this migration is to select a cutoff point. By a cutoff point, I mean the last date where you want your financial data to exist on QuickBooks and the first date where you want it to exist on Uhasibu. Most people who choose to do the migration prefer to coincide their cutoff point with their annual audit. This means the data before the audit remains on QuickBooks and any data after the audit will be started on Uhasibu. This is actually the best time to do a migration, but in case you want to migrate in the middle of the year, then it is okay as well. Simply proceed to select a cutoff date. For example, I am going to make my cutoff date 30th of September 2014. Once you have the cutoff date decided, step 2 is to go through your books and make sure that everything you have is completely up to date. For example, all receipts and expenses that you have been registered, any paid invoices have been marked as paid, the amounts in your bank accounts, petty cash accounts are all correct, and so on. Nothing should be left out or forgotten, as doing a migration without completely up-to-date books will bring a lot of problems in future, especially at your next audit. Step 3 is to generate your balance sheet from QuickBooks. Proceed to your QuickBooks and generate it the normal way you would, then leave it open or print it for the practical part of the migration. I already have generated mine and it's on display here. This should give me the balances that I will need to transfer and to what accounts I will need to transfer them to onto my Uhasibu account. Step 4 is to match my chart of accounts, the one that I have from my QuickBooks, to my existing chart of accounts on Uhasibu. So on your Uhasibu account, click the bookkeeping tab, then proceed to chart of accounts. Compare this chart of accounts to the one that you have on your QuickBooks balance sheet and see what you have in common on both QuickBooks and Uhasibu and what you don't have. For example, if you look at intangible assets and then come to your Uhasibu fixed assets, then you don't have intangible assets. But something like furniture and fixtures, when you go to your QuickBooks, it's probably there, but it's called something else. So furniture and equipment. For the ones that we have, we'll leave them or edit them, but the ones we don't have, we shall just simply add them onto Uhasibu. So for example, I have intangible assets on my QuickBooks, but I do not have it on my Uhasibu. So I will go back to my Uhasibu account and simply create it. How you create a new account on Uhasibu is you click the new account button. I know it's a fixed asset because on my QuickBooks, it's listed as a fixed asset. So I want it to land under the fixed assets account. So I will look for a number that is available under fixed assets. Account number 1012 is still available. It's a balance sheet account. I'll come and select balance sheet, give it the number 12, give it the name intangible assets. It's a debit account, there's no VAT, and save it. After you finish saving, it's listed here on my Uhasibu account. If I go back to my QuickBooks, I also have another one called intangible assets amortization. This is simply the depreciation account for the intangible assets, and I can also create this on my Uhasibu. Same procedure, I come and say new account. It's a balance sheet account. The last number I had was 1012. 1013 is also available, so I'll do 1013. Intangible assets amortization. Since it's a depreciation account, then it's going to be a credit account, and save. This is how you simply map out your chart of accounts, the ones that you have on Uhasibu and the one that you have on QuickBooks. For a longer period, I would have continued to match. I'd check motor vehicle. I have motor vehicle here and I have motor vehicle there. So I do not need to create that one. Same with the depreciation one. The furniture and equipment. Here it's called, I have two actually, there's office equipment and furniture and fixtures. I can edit furniture and fixtures. Simply click the pencil icon and call it furniture and equipment, the same way it's called in our QuickBooks. Also, we can edit the depreciation account for the same account and call it furniture and equipment depreciation. So save that as well. You should repeat this procedure with all the accounts shown in your QuickBooks balance sheet until you have every single one of them on Uhasibu as well. After I'm done creating all my accounts for this migration, I will create one more account, and I would also recommend you do the same. This account will be a dummy account to help us with the migration, and I will call it a transfer balance account. It doesn't matter where it falls, so I'll give it the account number 999 so that it falls at the complete bottom of my chart of accounts. And like I said, I will call it transfer account. The rest of its details don't really matter because we will only use this account as a control account. Once you are done with mapping the accounts from QuickBooks to Uhasibu, the next thing you need to do is download the bulk import Excel file from Uhasibu. The bulk import option allows you to register the balances on a separate Excel file and then upload all of them at one go instead of registering one transaction at a time, which might take a long time. You can click the bulk import link and then click the download template link. Save the file. Once you have the Excel sheet saved, find it on your local machine and open it. The Excel sheet looks something like this, and when you hover around this tiny red dots, you get some instructions. The first column represents the type of posting, and it proceeds to indicate what the number represents exactly. Number 1 is for cash expenses, 2 for funds transfers, and number 3 for journal entries. The second column represents the main account, and you're meant to fill this column with the number of your main account. There are some more instructions and you should proceed to read this. Third column represents the contra account, and this is simply the number 2 account that you will be using for your posting. The fourth column shows the amount. This is where you will fill out the actual value of your balances. Anything greater than 0 applies. Then there's the currency column, which is simply the currency that you're using for your bookkeeping. The D or C column will be important for the transfer, as this determines what you're doing to the main account. Writing a D will debit the main account and a C will credit the main account. You don't want to get this part wrong, as you might end up having negative figures where there is meant to be positive, and vice versa in your books after you've done the migration. The rest of the columns are not so hard to figure out, and you can take some time to go through the rest and see what they have to say and get to understand them. After you have understood the Excel sheet, we can then proceed to fill this out using our balance sheet from QuickBooks. I will start by filling out the redundant data, which is data that will not change from one entry to the other. For example, the date column will be the cut-off date we already chose, which will be 30th September. And I will replicate that all through so that all my transfers will be from that date. I can also change the filing number and give them the filing number 0. Leaving them as outer will increase the numbers from 1 to 2 to whatever number of entries that you have. Since I don't want this, I will change this number to 0 and replicate this number all through. I can do the same with the description and give them a description like balance transferred. The currency most likely will also be redundant, and this will be the currency the company is using for doing its bookkeeping, so also Kenya shillings all through. For the posting type, since we are transferring balances, we will use journal entries, and since we already know journal entries are represented by number 3. I will put number 3 all through. So that all my transfers will be journal entries. The last redundant data will be a contra account. The other bulk imports, this won't necessarily be the case, but for this migration, we will use the control account we created, account number 9999, as a contra account for all our postings. So I can do that for this one as well. When we're done with the import, this control account should have a 0 balance for a successful migration. If your books are balanced, and assuming we know that accounting is always a double entry, then using one account as a contra account means we are putting the same value of debits and credits into the same account, and that's why we should end up with a 0 balance. We're now left with the main account column, the amount column, and the debit or credit column. These 3 will change in all the postings, and you should be careful to ensure that you have them right. So using my balance sheet, I will start transferring the balances. First balance I want to transfer is the intangible assets other worth 15 million. I will come to my Excel sheet and fill the first amount as 15 million. Then I will go to my Uhasibu chart of accounts and check what number my intangible assets account is. My intangible assets is account 1210. I will indicate there 1012. The contra account is that's the amount. And then do I want to debit it or credit it? It's a debit account, and I want the figure to be a positive figure. So I will debit the same account. And we're done with the first entry. I will then proceed to do the second entry, which is my depreciation amount, which is 1.5 million. So I will put that amount here. My depreciation account is account number 1013. So I'll put number 1013. The balance on QuickBooks shows a negative balance. In QuickBooks, when it's a depreciation amount, it is shown as a negative balance. But on Uhasibu, our depreciation accounts are marked as credit accounts. So the balance here should also be a positive balance. And since it's a credit account and I want a positive balance, I will credit that account. We can try a second example where we have an account with a negative balance. For example, we have our petty cash here has a negative balance of 2,383. So I want to transfer this balance. I will come to my Excel sheet, put amount 2383. Then I will go to my Uhasibu and check what account number my petty cash account is. It's number 1230. So 1230. Yeah, my petty cash account is a debit account, meaning if I debit it here in Uhasibu, my balance will be a positive amount, but I want a negative amount. So when it's a debit account, I will credit it so that the transfer is transferred as a negative amount. You should then proceed with each and every one of these balances so that you make sure you have transferred all these balances from your QuickBooks onto this Excel sheet. Where you're most likely to go wrong is with the debits and credits. But here are a few pointers to help you remember what to do. If your account is a debit account on Uhasibu and you want a positive balance in that account, then debit that account on the Excel sheet. And if you want a negative balance, then credit it on the Excel. But if your account is a credit account on Uhasibu and you want a positive balance, then credit it on the Excel sheet. And if you want a negative balance, then you debit it on the Excel sheet. Over here I have my Excel sheet, which is already filled out based on all these balances that I have here. When you're done, double check your balances and the actions that you have given them, the debits and the credits, the balances and the main accounts that you've given them, to ensure that you have them right. You can never be too careful when it comes to doing your books right. A useful tip is to separately add up all your credits and then separately add up all your debits and see what figures that you have. If the two match, then so far so good. When it comes to filling out this Excel sheet, then chances are you have gotten it right. If by any chance you get different figures, then it means chances are you've either debited something that should be a credit or credited something should be a debit, or you've picked the wrong figures. Just go through the Excel sheet and make sure that everything is correct and that your balances here actually balance. So since my two balance, it means that I have a higher chance that my migration will be successful as it already is. I will delete these two figures because I can't do the migration with this. Once you're done and you're satisfied with the results, save this Excel sheet where you can easily locate it on your machine. At the bulk import area, click browse and then find the Excel sheet wherever you've saved it. Mine has been saved on the desktop, so I will click open it and then I will click the save button. The system will then give you a summary of your Excel sheet. It will show you the total number of postings that you have and if there are any that are invalid or some that are valid. So far so good. Mine look like all of them are valid, so I have 0 invalid postings. If they are valid, then confirm that you have the correct posting type. All of them are journal entries. Confirm that you have all the correct accounts that you need. The transfer account, the dates, okay. Make sure that the filing number is all 0 and the amounts are all correct, yeah. Then the description is also the same. I can proceed then now to commit postings directly into accounts because I don't want to go and double check all the confirmations, and then click save. So 18 postings have been imported. Just to make sure that all is well, I'll go to your chart of accounts and see if the amounts look correct or whether they are positive where they're meant to be positive and negative where they're meant to be negative. Here the mine are positive, they're all positive, they're all correct. They look so far so good, they look okay. Lastly, check that your control account 999 at the very far bottom has a 0 balance. Mine has a 0 balance over here, so it looks good. With the 0 balance in this account, it means you'll have successfully done your migration from Quickbooks to Uhasibu. Otherwise, you'll have done something wrong and you should contact Uhasibu support for assistance. For more detailed help on Uhasibu, please check our YouTube channel for other help videos.